Continuing with our guest, today we have Denis Ilisevich, a businessman who actively runs a political blog. Denis, welcome.
Hello.
I suggest we start with the events taking place in Davos, particularly with the speech that Trump gave. Trump delivered a victorious speech and talked about the golden era of the American economy. He also did not forget about peace in Ukraine. And he says that Putin and Zelensky have already reached a stage where they can come together and sign an agreement. Despite the fact that Zelensky is not in Davos right now, what do you think will happen next? For example, what should we expect in Davos tomorrow?
I think this way. I think if Trump is saying something like this, Zelensky needs to pack his bags, go there, grab onto any straw, and jump into any last departing train car. Sign a peace agreement for Ukraine, compromise, end the war, and halt the humanitarian catastrophe caused by Putin's shelling. Nothing will improve. Everything will get worse. Ignore Fedorov's fairy tales and those absurd goals like killing Petruha and 50,000 Russians a month to win. Sirski is saying that you can't win a war in defense. It's nonsense. It's mocking the people. I urge people not to listen to all that, but to look at the reality.
The reality is this: Trump is proposing to sign an agreement with Ukraine regarding the restoration of Ukraine. We're talking about $800 billion, a huge sum, but to access the Prosperity Fund, a peace agreement must be signed. And if I understand correctly, it would be under the conditions proposed by Trump.
Yes, but it's more complex. You must accept all conditions, which are mostly painful compromises, not just avoid disputing them. Every time I look at it, I don't see it as a good thing, but it's the best available option for today. You need to agree, you need to sign, you need to cooperate with the United States of America in everything, to do business with them. They should control the money for reconstruction, otherwise it will all be stolen. Europe is showing no interest in peace in Ukraine, and that's sad. Trump told them today that actually you were the ones who should have organized all this. You should have brought everyone together, tried to make peace, tried to stop the war. But that's not happening. Trump flies 5,000 miles from Ukraine and from Europe to save Ukraine, and that's not a normal situation.
Even if Europe wanted to, could they really save Ukraine? If you look at their situation, Merz is already getting ready to fly to China. Because they have problems with their economy and they're thinking about how to solve their own problems. So what can they really do to help us? How do you react to the fact that they're thinking about what Europeans should do about Trump, whether to listen to him, do what he says, or look for new allies? What should they do?
The thing is, this shift towards China is happening. Europe is turning, Canada is turning towards China, and it gives me the worst thoughts. It's terrible. Europe can't get closer to China. Europe should be getting closer to the United States of America. You asked how they could make peace in Ukraine, like Trump does? Calling Putin, meeting with Putin, trying to organize a three-way meeting, all the things Trump does, shuttle diplomacy. But really, what other options are there besides talking? To stop fueling hostility. Yesterday, Scott Bessent from the United States Treasury asked, is Europe still buying Russian? No, how is that possible? Will they keep buying like this? Talking about peace was impossible. That's how things work. Europe is on its own and will live a calm, well-fed, happy life. Ukraine will suffer. And meanwhile, some fools there will proudly claim they're seeking Europe. Will be proud. And the European will drink his delicious coffee in a European capital under a peaceful sky and admire the beauty of European cultural heritage. The United States will benefit, but does that mean Ukraine loses? This is the wrong approach, and people with common sense should come to power. And regarding what I'm telling you, I'm facing serious resistance. There's literally a struggle against me. I work through the media. It's the only resource available to me right now. Look, yesterday my stream channel was removed from YouTube. I have some information about who it could have been, even some facts. It's just that I speak out against Soros, against his followers. I spoke out with outrage about Tina Carroll and her actions. Everyone is against me. I speak out against the authorities. I asked people to subscribe to my first channel, to my second channel, and now taking this opportunity, I'm promoting them because people's support is my only fuel. It's the resource for resistance. We can either give up and let Soros supporters tear Ukraine apart, make it a buffer zone as they want, let Europeans and others act independently, and let people decide for themselves.
The Europeans have some new strategy. Regarding what you mentioned, could they talk to Putin? How could they do that? They repeatedly led Europeans to expect a war with Russia, making negotiations difficult as they were always preparing for conflict. And now they're saying that it's necessary to create an alliance with America, without America, specifically with Ukraine, that a military alliance should be created without America. If you look at why Europeans need Ukrainians, we can find some logic here because we are fighting, we have a capable army. If not for our government, things would be different. Why do we need Europeans or join their alliance?
No, I get your point about a NATO-style alliance without the United States, including Ukraine. It's a good topic. It's all nonsense. It's a stillborn idea. People shouldn't even pay attention to it or think about it. It's an unworkable idea. Trump, through extraordinary efforts and pressure, managed to get European countries to gradually start paying a percentage of their gross domestic product as NATO contributions. What other structures outside of this can we even talk about? We've already seen everything with Greenland, with Ukraine as well. What can NATO do? Without the United States, practically nothing. So without the States, none of this will happen. Also, if you do that, do you think Trump will just step back? Could it cause a full United States-Europe confrontation? Is Europe moving toward China? I'm just urging Europeans, we are Western civilization. We should live the way civilization was built, the way it achieved success. Any turn toward China or Russia is unacceptable, especially a turn toward Russia. And no, they're not talking. We need to talk to everyone, communicate with everyone, stop wars and trade. Ideologically, we can't let those totalitarian countries into Western civilization. They lack free speech and fair courts. I don't go to their countries or tell them how to live. Let them decide for themselves. In Western civilization, I urge you not to allow this, because without the United States in World War II, the Soviet Union would have lost. I say this responsibly. My great-grandfather earned 5 medals in that war, which I have thoroughly studied and know well. Now the situation is about the same. For 80 years, the United States and Europe have been partners, allies, and this should continue. If this fails, I'm scared the whole world is at risk.
We see that Merz is planning to go to China, despite the fact that the Brussels agreements are in effect, which stipulate that the European Union does not trade with China. And Trump insists that they still impose tariffs against China. Merz sees that the situation in Germany is critical. He wants to expand markets from but. He wants Germans to live better. Sorry, but I can see from your face that something is wrong, and he is going to fly to China to reach agreements. Do you think this is for his political interests? Is he doing this, or does he really want to remain a leader in power? What is he guided by?
This is a response to Trump. If you pressure us over Greenland, over Ukraine, over tariffs, then we will turn towards China. What I just told you, you see, that's how it works. Macron has had close ties with the Chinese for a while, and now the Canadian Prime Minister, though not European, is also linked to China and even suspected of being a Chinese agent. I've read such analytical articles. The situation is more dangerous and complex than most realize. Everything they're saying about Greenland is true. It's not about occupation or oppression. Today he even said, guys, have you lost your minds? I will not go to war against allies or partners. The left-wing press and corporate media like Soros and the left twist things and demonize Trump to push their agenda. Those are who I'm fighting against. Well, it's unthinkable. Do you understand? The world faces serious danger if you think Russia and China aren't separate. And then Europe sides with China too. I just can't wrap my head around it. Excuse me, I'll say it again. Trading, sure, no problem. But when it comes to strategic things like those related to technology, probably not. Or if yes, then only in a very limited way, and everything else, yes, things for general consumption. But we have to save our civilization.
For Europeans, this question likely doesn't arise the same way. They're still preparing for war with Russia. Because yesterday in Norway, a country with a fairly high gross domestic product, this country is not in the European Union. They sent letters to people saying that if a war with Russia starts, people will have to give up their apartments to the state if the state needs them. So there is this strategy. Be afraid, prepare for war, be glad that we are here. In other words, if we are not all ready for war, things will get even worse. What are they really counting on? To be honest,
I didn't know that about Norway. I'll definitely check this information, but I'll tell you why this is done. Well, Norway surprised me. You're right. They're not European Union members and are very wealthy. So why scare people? The European Union does this, using fears of Trump and war with Putin to cover up their economic and other failures. We know who has flooded European countries and what kind of people they are. I don't understand why Norway is doing this, but it's clearly influenced by globalists. That's why I repeat, the world is in great danger. I'm not saying Putin lacks ideas, but he doesn't have the resources to challenge the European Union or the United States. NATO. Let's say NATO, and we must not split NATO, but we also must not split Western civilization. Right now in 2026, we're discussing things that we never would have discussed before. Well, let's put it this way. Even in 2018, even in 2016, we wouldn't have discussed this with you 10 years ago, and certainly not 15 years ago. Such a question couldn't have even arisen like this. We all shared the same values: personal freedom, freedom of speech, free trade, free movement among people of Western civilization, but not letting just anyone into Western civilization. That's how it always worked. But today, everything has changed. There are big changes happening in the world. And look, this topic needs to be expanded. There are political changes happening, and artificial intelligence is about to make a crazy breakthrough, you could say, but there will be an absolutely colossal breakthrough. It's mind-blowing how quickly everything changes, showing how outdated today's primary education is everywhere. We can't predict tomorrow, so how can we teach for it? Are you teaching based on everything that happened before? But in 3 years, about 80% of it won't work anymore. It will be irrelevant. And we have a big challenge, and I'm here fighting for Ukraine, so that we don't end up on the sidelines of civilization, so that we really don't turn into a European Syria or a European Afghanistan. Because look at what happened there. For example, in Syria, or in Afghanistan as well, but especially in Syria. There, Islamic State of Iraq and Syria is there, others are there, they've torn the country apart. Some control one part, the government controls another, there are these bad people, and then there's someone else, and then there's Russia. What if that happens in the center of Europe? Allowing it in our beautiful country is unthinkable. A country that could be among Europe's top 5 richest.
people, I urge you to subscribe to our channel because 80% of viewers watch our channel without subscribing. If everyone who watched subscribed, it would help us a lot. Now, while we're still talking about Europeans, let's remember that they either want Ukraine or have to invite it to the European Union for some reason. But they can't invite Ukraine into the current European Union as it is. They want to change it a bit and then invite Ukraine in. Here's a question for you. Why doesn't Zelensky go to Davos now, take advantage of this peace agreement that Trump is offering him, and present it to us as a gift, saying that we're already in the European Union?
He knows they won't let us in. There are talks going on there right now. You're probably referring to what's being discussed for 2027. Taking Ukraine in through an accelerated procedure, thank you, but cutting off its ability to vote so that we can't vote there. That won't happen. You can't imagine that? I criticize the current European Union, but again, the basic documents haven't been rewritten, and they are fundamentally based on great values, and today many of these values are being violated in Ukraine as well. We're not prepared for this legally or otherwise. Everyone knows our citizens are just getting European Union passports now, and borders can't be closed anymore. After all that Zelensky's government has done, roughly 5 to 7 million. With a European Union passport, you can study, work, or live in any European Union country and move freely as you wish. Bank accounts. You live in Ukraine but have a German account or the other way around. This shows your integration into the system. And so our person looks at this and thinks, wait, here the authorities are putting pressure, taxes are going up, the courts are unfair everywhere, there's pressure everywhere, it's terrible everywhere, it's a nightmare everywhere, there's a potential war. Why do I need this? I'll go somewhere where everything is already set up and I'll be useful there. Well, I'll learn the language, I'll study everything. And that's the problem. I repeat, there are many opponents of Ukraine in the European Union. Many countries are against Ukraine's presence in the European Union. 5 or 6 will categorically oppose this, but they also want to cut them off. You're small countries, unable to make decisions, and everything is complicated. Ukraine won't join NATO or the European Union. In the coming years, if they start telling us now about prospects for 2030, I am categorically against such approaches. We need reforms here and now to see improvements in life and to see concrete progress right here, right now. For many, life has passed by during these in 5 years promises. In independent Ukraine, they told stories, but now almost a whole life has passed, and things are 10 times worse. And for this, we need sensible proposals, radical ones in a good sense. Not this nonsense when they talk about tightening belts and lice hours. Unpopular reforms become popular when they improve everyone's lives and make people wealthier. This isn't populism. I'm presenting a concrete numerical reform plan. First of all, we need to adopt Anglo-Saxon law and create the most liberal economy in Europe, and then we have a chance.
How do we sign this peace agreement? Dmitriev is in Davos, Zelensky isn't. Dmitriev says some agreements are already made and things are going well. We know that Vitkov is going to Moscow tomorrow, but Zelensky is not there, so why is he going? It's just some other tactic, public relations. Are they actually discussing specific agreements?
The information I have sounds something like this. Zelensky arrives in Davos before Vitkov goes to Moscow. So the scheme is supposedly like this. Zelensky manages to talk to Trump, Vitkov, and Kushner in Davos. After that, Vitkov, having processed this information and made a strategic decision in the United States on how to talk to Moscow, flies to Putin. God willing, that's how it'll be, but things could turn out differently. I'll tell you right away, nothing is stopping Zelensky from signing everything, doing everything, and finally establishing peace in Ukraine. At least stopping the fire and then continuing to work legally. People will be able to live in peace. They're already starting to live a normal, peaceful life there and to rebuild the country. But it could be different. He might stand firm tomorrow since he's interested in the next presidential term. And you asked me, what about the fund? What about the European Union? And what about Zelensky? He's looking at what outweighs what. Will the positives outweigh the negatives? When Poroshenko errs now, people accuse him of giving up the country. Today, a reasonable Ukrainian and the country itself are divided and under pressure. Soros supporters are making Ukraine unviable. Putin is bombing us and wants territory, and the authorities are stealing. Where can this poor person go? Is there any part of reasonable Ukrainians? For example, that's my audience, and hopefully yours too, who see Ukraine as a prosperous, strong country created for people, not people as expendable material for the state. It's crucial for these people to unite. Today, I'm practically the only one promoting this agenda with a concrete plan, vision, and most importantly, the desire. But if I'm left alone, then one person can't do anything here. Even 100,000 or 200 or 300, it's not enough. We need at least 1 million people.
People, I'm asking you, everyone who watched this video, please subscribe to our channel. And this truth works. Let's talk about Sharma. We know that today he was notified of suspicion. Is this connected to the fact that Zelensky is not in Davos, or that he won't want to sign those agreements that Trump is proposing? And here someone else from the side is showing him that they will put pressure by revealing information about one person, another, a third, and as close to Zelensky as possible. Possibly even Zelensky, or do you dismiss that?
No, it all lives a parallel life. I wouldn't connect it like that. The Sharma deal, Sharma is a thief, just like all these guys. They're all thieves. They're being exposed. Peace agreements are happening in their own world. No, somewhere in some threads it intersects. But to say directly that Sharma is about peace negotiations, of course not. It's just thieves being dealt with. But Tatiana, yesterday on that remote stream, I mentioned the famous broadcast with Baganyan and Bereza, where he talked about Bakanov. Millions went to the security service of Ukraine, Ukraine's president's security, and ties with the 95 the quarter. Now it's Sharma, who they tried to present positively. Mindich, let's remember the Zuckermans. Again, I ask, where can a normal Ukrainian citizen go if they don't support radical nationalism? Or maybe not pro-Russian, but simply someone who wants to live at home in a prosperous, free, and protected country? That's exactly how the question should be asked. I know I've repeated this several times today, but it's vital that people remember it. What a person wants is fundamentally important. That's all. We can revisit last names and discuss them again since people find it interesting and need to know. Actually, last names don't matter. What's important are the head of state's ideology, plans, and influential clans.
Where can a normal person go? Speakers often claim the military won't agree to this proposal since it requires withdrawing troops from Donbass. Is this condition actually being discussed now? Right now, the situation in the energy sector is critical, and we're hearing crazy advice. It's simple, but the situation is critical. And women are leaving the country with their children, while the men who can't leave stay behind. They fall into two groups. Draft dodgers are people who don't want to join the army or see any purpose in it, but the state insists they must. Then there are others who are at the front in these conditions. Do you believe that the military really doesn't agree to these peace terms?
No, I don't believe that. I talked to the military, they talked to even more military personnel with the Special Operations Forces and the Intelligence Directorate and everyone else. These are isolated cases. It's propaganda, it's propaganda. The key point is that this gives us some form of democracy. Otherwise, if the military runs the country, it's a different system. That's the decision we face. I don't think the army and central government will clash. If we need to make tough decisions, because there's also the question of common sense and reality, then we make them. If we don't accept these terms now, we risk greater destruction, loss of territory, and civilian suffering. I'll say it again. 2026 is when the countdown timer starts. We have only a few months left, literally 6 to 9 months, after which irreversible changes will happen. So no matter what I tell you here, or what I say elsewhere, or what anyone else says, it will never change. Even if Trump or Javier Milei praised Ukraine and encouraged people to live there, no one would believe it or want to anymore. We need to consider what could happen next winter if the war goes on. You say no one wants Donbass, but what will happen then if things are already this bad? Will they fix it? No. Will there be fewer crooks in power? No, only more. And I see disappointed, destitute people. Do you see these photos too? There was no electricity, then they turned it on, and everything started melting through the electrical networks, causing short circuits and flooding. What is this? In 1926, 700,000 people left Kyiv, yet we're still debating for another year about giving. Whether or not to give is the real question. We control territory where people can live and will make it successful. Or should we keep telling people fairy tales about it? As if that's the secret to success. I'm not saying to give up, but is fighting for land that's already unlivable really the key to success? Putting at risk the huge, still potentially great Ukraine that we have, that's what needs to be weighed on the scales. For me, the answer is clear. I'm someone who creates and takes constructive action.
Tell us, how are we going to live through the next winter? It's very important for us to know how we will get through this one. A Kyiv City Council member slipped on ice while walking yesterday, broke his spine, and died performing his duties. Ukrenergo electrocuted someone today. Their actions have caught up with them, but they still refuse to learn or take advice. In Davos, we're told to be bold yet cautious. Yesterday, Kuleba urged us to visit cafes to support entrepreneurs. A woman gave even better advice today. She suggested going to a sex shop, buying things, having fun with them at home, and warming up that way. So, what do you think? Does this seem a bit crazy? Such statements against the backdrop of an energy collapse. What should the authorities actually be doing right now?
I'll tell you what this is called, and I'll tell you where it comes from. The root of all this is the lack of self-respect among the majority of citizens. Kaino Kara sang for us during hard times. There was some good, but it's unclear where she found it. This is about sex, and the mugs are heated to 38 degrees, warm up with them. Go to the restaurant, go there, there's also someone else giving advice. And these are spits in the face, actually. It's really, really funny at first, but then you think about it. These are spits in the face, and it passes. If society had responded properly to the first scandal like that, I can just imagine Americans in this situation. And if the wife of an American official came out and said, go buy something at a sex shop and keep yourselves warm, that official would be gone in 5 minutes. I don't know how he could even show his face. You violated something sacred, freedom, and humiliated everything. They sit there smiling and humiliating everyone, and people just swallow it. No, if we're really as freedom-loving as they say, then we can't just swallow this. This isn't just about Putin or Russia. We have enemies inside as well, and we need to understand that. You know what I was thinking? Kuleba was fired, there was a scandal, and now they've brought him back. He loves Zelensky so much. He's such a careerist for him. He'd walk over corpses for his career. But Zelensky or someone else could have called him in, said, look, you're working here, but tell your wife to keep quiet, and you shouldn't say all sorts of nonsense about your job either. Just quietly do your propaganda, but don't insult people. If I left it like that, I'd be as much of a scoundrel as they are. They have that structure, but you still need some conscience. You still have to face this backlash yourselves. Carlos has flooded the entire internet with this filth. This is the first time in the whole history of independence. I saw how the people's genuine aggression was directed at what was supposed to be a positive character. There were Ukrainian women, Ukrainian men. There were no Russian special services anywhere near. It was genuinely the people themselves. They were sincerely aggressive. They were bewildered. This is taking root. You can't disrespect Ukrainians or each other, especially in tough times. but some still think it's acceptable. I'm calling on everyone to respond to this and at least order that such things don't happen, not to hurt people like this, at least in these times.
It seemed to me that she wanted to cheer people up so they wouldn't wander around or suffer. The man says, go support the entrepreneurs, but we remember that there's a tax being imposed that is ruining these entrepreneurs. With Europe and the International Monetary Fund promising funds, it's unclear if we'll actually receive the money, and if we do, we must return some for weapons. Why aren't we taking these $800 billion that Trump is offering?
It's not 800 billion that they're just handing over to us. No one except America has the right to get their hands on it. This reconstruction fund is a huge project. For example, rebuilding buildings, roads, and infrastructure. You might need 100 billion, so they allocate investments and technologies. It's an incredibly massive process that will take a long time. It's not for a year, not for 2, not for 5, and probably not even for 10. It's a very long-term project. But you can't steal anything there. And when Europe gives you something, first of all, it's not about people. It doesn't concern people there. First, it immediately goes to weapons. It's not $90 billion in cash. Some paid off the loan and some bought unproduced mythical weapons. It's all like that. Europe basically injected money into its own economy, but put the debt on Ukraine. I'm just telling you how it works. That's how it works. America offers real prosperity, but you also have to accept certain values, the ones America was built on. God has sent us, and though the war is terrible, he is giving us a chance. Here is Trump, and you can work with him if you know how to talk to him properly. If you don't pretend, you can really use this ideology to do things we never even dreamed of, things that wouldn't have happened otherwise. Happiness, yes. Misfortune helped. There's a saying, and this is that case. We have misfortune, war, sorrow, but now there's Trump, America, and we can get closer to America, and that's very important for us. No, he's not interested in that, because then the United States will say, guys, peace, and then what? Elections. What kind? Fair, democratic, free from persecution and speech restrictions. Who in Ukraine is satisfied with that? They usually split the country into 7 or 8 clans, rotate power, clash in the media, and hire or fight each other. This isn't about Ukraine's interests. This is Ukraine. A piece of meat that everyone is tearing apart, which is what they've been doing for 35 years, and now they're saying if it weren't for the war, we would have shown everyone, no, you wouldn't have.
If they don't give us cash, maybe that's for the best, right? We need to rebuild the country. We need to have electricity, water, gas, heat, and for entrepreneurs to be able to work and develop. We don't really need money as such. We need the opportunity to have it, to earn it, and to live comfortably. Yes?
We need a fishing rod, but this is money for the war. You have to understand. It's not a loan, it's a stabilization fund. In the post-war period or during serious reforms, there aren't any. It's just like I said for the war. Ammunition, weapons, paying debts, it's all just numbers in a computer, not real money. It's nothing, empty, and it still won't be enough. It's all you see. No matter where you look, everything is bad from every side. The war, a continuing war, will only make the situation worse.
The Europeans might help us if they agree to these proposals. As for me, Trump, if Trump says he wants to govern in Greenland, he doesn't demand, just like Putin, that we sign any papers. Yes, he wants to put military bases there, extract fertilizers, and pay people. He just wants to give them some money and simply use this territory without demanding any documents from the Europeans. Is it more beneficial for them to accept these terms or not to accept them?
I wouldn't compare Putin and Trump. Putin is an aggressor and invader. Trump is a businessman. This is a completely different kind of land purchase. Trump is proposing to buy Greenland, and he is absolutely against leasing it. He wants to buy Greenland. Greenland is a unique territory. As Trump says, a huge chunk of ice where people live. Actually, it doesn't matter, which is subsidized for $700 or $800 million or euros each year, $1 billion a year in subsidies. So this island doesn't earn enough to support itself. Greenland doesn't support itself. It is subsidized. Trump says, we come to every citizen, give them $100,000, build military bases, create infrastructure, finance all of this, and Denmark still gets paid. We're talking about $700 billion. When this was announced in America, many said, even supporters, that's expensive. Finland isn't worth it. But even if it's $500 or $700 billion, that's great for Denmark. This strengthens NATO, not weakens it. This isn't Russia. Selling Greenland to China boosts security and brings American money to Europe, Greenland, and its 55,000 people. It's good for Denmark, NATO, and Western civilization. No oppression involved. Unlike Putin's tactics with armed forces and forced referendums, this is how the civilized world operates. No, because they want to do their own thing. They don't want Trump's influence. They want to do things their own way.
Because if Trump had done it, it would have played out in such a way that there wouldn't be globalists in charge in Europe.
It would have weakened them. So, first of all, this is a huge victory over China and Russia, over Putin. It's just, but I'm telling you again, Europe doesn't want this for the same reason that Zelensky, when we're in charge, like Europe is in charge now, we impose crazy taxes. As we can see, their military situation is bad, meaning Russia was simply mocking them. These drones, even regular ones, aren't ready for war and lack ammunition. Culturally, things are bad because many good people entered illegally. There are failures everywhere and only democracy remains in Europe. All ratings indicate current leaders have none, while right-wing leaders have ratings. This suggests issues with leaders clinging to power like Zelensky. Why do we need Trump? Trump will claim we shouldn't allow free speech on social networks or let certain people into the country, but that's not what we want. We want to do what's necessary, and that's important to understand. Elon Musk said it right, that many politicians today are just actors, and behind the scenes there are some very serious puppet masters. They shout and make speeches, but in reality they don't decide anything. That's what they are, just actors, talking heads, that's who they are, and people need to understand this, and Zelensky is the same way. Why do I need your foundation if I won't be president? If I accept and sign tomorrow, voters won't choose me. Moreover, it's not just about losing power and going off to enjoy yourself. They will start asking questions not only to Zelensky, but to his entire circle. Different things and facts will come to light that are unknown to the general public today. Legal proceedings will begin, and this will follow you for the rest of your life. In other words, a peaceful life is over after that, that's all. Why would he want that? I'm telling you again, when you look at things through the lens of a truly successful Ukraine, and of course see yourself as successful within that successful Ukraine, yes. But when you talk and look at all of this and think, is this beneficial for me right now in this situation? Then of course that's what matters to them.
It's beneficial, but we see that people are suffering a lot. Without electricity, people are going 16, 18 hours without power, and they're saying that we still have to keep fighting, we need to gather our strength. How can people survive with no food, unable to cook, and a cold apartment? How do we fix this? Why does no one, not a single authority, give any explanation about this?
How are we supposed to live? People are asking their local election officials, but I'm not the authority. I'm explaining how to make sure this doesn't happen again and how to stop it, but as for what to do, let them figure it out themselves. If I were offered now, I would tell those who elected me what they should do today. But as it is, I don't even want to take that responsibility. It's not up to me. They caused the trouble, so why should I explain what to do? Let them tell you. The question shouldn't be, let's just endure for now. For what? To protect Zelensky? We just need to last until spring, when it will be warmer and electricity easier to handle. Putin won't bomb as much since there's no advantage without freezing. This question needs to be approached more globally and more radically.
Officials are changing. Right now, Shmihal is being replaced. He's the Minister of Energy, and people don't ask him such questions. And even if they did, he wouldn't answer them. And so the situation is that these officials keep changing. The situation doesn't get any better, and people simply have no way out. And the average citizen feels extremely critical and wants to leave the country.
Shmihal has held 3 major positions in Ukraine, though he may have worked in less significant roles before that. It's not one position and none were elective. He was appointed to all. Who appoints? President or Verkhovna Rada? Members of parliament and the president are both elected by the people. Local authorities, who also bear 40% of the responsibility. But it's true, local authorities couldn't decide whether to get involved in the war or not. They just had to deal with what the central government chose. The war's been ongoing for 4 years, and winter isn't in June or July. What's done is done. Regarding Morozov and the rest, did anyone really think Putin wouldn't bomb? Is it really unclear that you need sand, salt, and organization? What amazes me most is imagining myself as any mayor of any city size. How can you just sit there while people curse you? Millions live there, you have money, and all you think about is stealing from tenders with your friends. Wouldn't you want the internet to showcase your exemplary city, a city at war without war, for the Western media? Look at what happened in Ukraine. Let me explain. This system doesn't work like that. It rejects anyone who thinks as I just described. You're a part of the system, just a cog. Be a good boy, organize the thieving and corrupt parts. If not, you'll get kicked out and the system will spit you out. Take Misha Fedorov, for example, the young guy that many people still praise for some reason. He became exactly that cog in the system. He started telling fairy tales, making things up. He already talked about a drone army. Now he's saying they'll build an analog of the Mavic. Listen, this is just complete nonsense. But that's the decision he made for himself. He's just like Liba. He'll say anything for a position and his career is rising. Trust me, he'll go even further. He wants to be prime minister, lead Zelensky's administration, head the Verkhovna Rada, or hold another key position. But that's how they see life. They don't want to go down in history like Havermehl or even Trump with radical historical changes, or like Margaret Thatcher once did in Britain. No. They just want to revel in today's power, their privileged position, and rake in the money.
Summing up our conversation, what do you think? Will Zelensky fly to Davos tomorrow or today? And will he be in Davos and take a step toward peace? Thank you.
If I had to predict, I'm sure he'll go and fly, but something bad could happen there. Here's why I think so, though I hope I'm wrong. I know the mood in Trump's team now, and for Trump, it's not about asking how do you want it, or let's do it this way, but rather seeing it as now is the opportunity. Trump said today, Putin, I'm ready to sign. Those were his words today. Maybe it's also pressure on Putin. In this way, Trump can play this game for a very long time, and he's already been playing for a long time, almost a year. But the moment will come, just like with Venezuela. Maduro also danced, sang songs. This topic was discussed in the media for 3 or 4 months. With this Maduro, you remember, and many already thought nothing would happen, nothing will happen there. It happened so suddenly, no one expected it. Just yesterday, he was dancing and joking for the camera. This really reminds me of what Putin and Zelensky are doing. God willing, the issue with Greenland will be resolved so that Putin gets what he deserves. And as for Zelensky, there are 1,000 ways for Trump to rein him in.
The Europeans, their reaction to Maduro's takeover and the fact that Trump is now extracting oil in Venezuela and the situation happening in Greenland, which is planned to happen there, their reactions are different. Why are they considered Democrats? It seems like their values are all democratic, that they should defend freedom, independence, and rights. Here they say that Trump should change something regarding Venezuela. Well, they talked about it for a day and forgot. Why are they different in the same situation?
No, they don't talk about Venezuela because after all, Greenland is Europe, so to speak. It's still part of Europe, but Venezuela is Latin America, and that's kind of far away. But over there, they were almost defending Maduro. I can tell you how you can check me right now. You can open it and see when the Europeans started to speak out, on the 3rd or 4th day after it happened. Then Ursula finally bothered to write a post. There was nothing like, oh, Trump, good job, you took down a dictator that no one could defeat in 15 minutes or half an hour. No, nothing like that happened. That's the source of the fear. Maduro, Putin, China, Iran, and the Ayatollah regime. These aren't people who play fair with you, by the rules. They're cheaters who sit at the table, play cards, trick you professionally, then look you in the eye and say, what do you mean? We're playing fair. What are you talking about? And so Trump, not being a fool, sat down at this table to play. They trick him and tell him everything here is fair. And Trump did what he had to do. He stood up and hit them over the head. That's all. You can't play by the rules with cheaters. You'll lose. Trump understands this well. Meaning, if it comes to this, like with Europe now, Trump plays fair. But after all, there's still democracy in Europe. And Trump is with them. Yes, he might say something unexpected there, but the process of negotiations and pressure is still democratic. This is all of world history. All world politics has always been done this way, but it's different with dictators. And you understand when China is building up its military capabilities and now they're saying, no, Trump, you're bad because of Greenland, but we're going to China to negotiate. This is something unbelievable. This is all wrong. This is all wrong.
These events will continue to develop. We'll see. Thank you for being with us today. As we wrap up our conversation, please subscribe to the Liberty Ukraine channel, like and comment on our conversation. Also subscribe to Dennis's channel. Thank you for your attention. See you next time.
Thank you.